Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Business, Bourbon, and Cigars. I'm your host, Scott Joseph, and today we're diving deep into the world of strategic mastery and uncovering hidden opportunities for sustainable business growth. Our special guest today is Beate Chelette. She's the growth architect and founder of the Women's Code. Your journey, or her journey, I should say, she hasn't spoken yet, is a testament.
We can change that very quickly.
It's a testament to the power of strategy and resilience. And I say that because she's literally gone from being $135,000 in debt to eventually selling her company to Bill Gates. Doesn't get much higher up on the business food chain than Bill. So congratulations to that. And I'm very excited for her to share her insights with us today. Before we begin, I want to ask you, please make sure you subscribe to Me Plus Ultra at meplusultra.com. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Me Plus Ultra Network. That way you can stay updated with all our latest content and episodes. It's funny, I always talk about how our network equals our net worth. And I know that's a phrase that a lot of people have said, and I think it's very true here. It's through masterminds and leadership retreats like Business, Bourbon, and Cigars that I've been able to connect with incredible people. And it's that ecosystem which has eventually led me to Beate. All right. And you probably don't know this, but I don't know if you know Mario Ficini and Alex Sanfilippo. But it's these type of gatherings that have been pivotal, at least for me, in forming powerful connections and unlocking leadership excellence. So having said all that, Beate, I want to welcome you to Business, Bourbon, and Cigars.
I am excited to be here. I'm fired up. Let's do it. I love the idea of the network and the mastermind and community building. I do believe that the topic is incredibly relevant, especially right now, because we still have people be not civil with each other. And when you meet somebody in person or when you yell at somebody remotely, that's two different things. So in person, we really do see the biggest impact.
I yell at people online and in person.
Never mind then, just scratch that. Note for the editor, take the whole piece out.
All right. So, when a lot of people think about hitting ground or hitting rock bottom, they think of zero. And most people don't know you can fly right past zero. All right. Right. And here you are, 135 in debt, right? Talk to us. Share your background for the audience so they can understand your journey from kind of probably what got you there to the 135 to then selling to Bill Gates. And of course, you don't need to give us all the details because I got a lot of questions for you. But I do want to frame this up. How did this happen?
Yeah, so you have to envision, just really sort of the unruly girl from Germany that always felt that there was something else out there that I needed to do. And I did not believe that the aptitude test that told me I should be a roofer because I liked being outside, that was my career trajectory. And so I was always drawn to the creative arts, photography specifically, and I've forged my way into, the photography world by first, I studied photography. I was an assistant, and then I was a photographer. Then I was an editor at Elle magazine. And then from there on, I realized that there must be something else out there. So I immigrated to the United States. And I very quickly was laid off at a point where I had a 6-month-old, and I was we kind of had no idea how to run a business, but it was through a massive recession. And as I was laid off, I was unemployable. There were no jobs. Los Angeles was in turmoil. And so I had to figure out over excruciating 10 years on how to make things work. And I think I kind of sucked at it. And so I participated in groups. I, very much like you do your mastermind, I participated in a lot of the stuff that's available through the government, the women's groups, the women business groups, and things like that. But I just couldn't quite figure it out. And Then there was this moment where I got to $1 million in revenue, right? So now I have it figured out. I'm like the queen of the world. I'm in the 4% of business owners that ever even make it to that mark. And, finally I'm like in control over my time and yada, 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 yada. Well, and then everything went to hell. And I had an employee that got too close to my key vendor, started their own business, which was my business without me. So I lost $500,000 while I wasn't looking when they did whatever they did. And I sued them, and it's this massive lawsuit that's costing me a fortune of money that I'm not earning anymore. But then I get to the point where I think the production season is around, and I was doing a lot of photography production for Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Wrangler, Levi's Strauss, great clients. I mean, as I said, I thought I was the queen bee here. And then September 11th comes, and in one day it's over. Like I lost everything in one day. And so now I'm going, okay, I'm still in this lawsuit. I just lost my entire income. What do I do? So I had to figure out a different business, and I came to this idea of stock photography syndication for architecture and interior. And this is like the equivalent of running upstairs in a spiral staircase in 4-inch stilettos, because I already had no money. All this other stuff had happened. I had a really good idea. I knew it was the right time. It was the right market, but I had no money how I was going to do this. And then the lawsuit settled. It got rid of the first set of debt, the first $130,000. And then that was so interesting. I went to the Flower Mart downtown Los Angeles. I remember this like it was yesterday. And I go and I buy these huge bouquets of roses for my attorney and for her staff. And I drive down to Long Beach and I walk in the office. I give them the flowers. Then I look at my bank account, and it literally had like $50 left. So, I went through all of this for nothing. And so now I'm building up the stock syndication. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to go back into debt. What else am I going to do? And I have this idea. It's a good idea, but I can't get there fast enough. Now I'm $135,000 in debt. So now I have to borrow money to pay interest on borrowed money, which is also known as the death spiral in finance. And I knew I'm running out of time. I fly to Germany, desperate to drum up some business. My dad has a stroke. My father didn't have a stroke. My father had pancreatic cancer. So my father dies 6 weeks later. My biggest fan, my number one cheerleader supporter. It's getting pretty bad. We're going to have to pay for a funeral with money I don't have. While I'm at the funeral, and it literally we had buried my dad. My phone rings. It's my office in Los Angeles telling me that we've just been served a notice. Now I'm losing the house. So in this moment, I fell to my knees and I raised my fist and I yelled at God. And I said, you know what? Enough. If you have a plan, this would be an excellent time to fill me in. Because at this point, I just couldn't comprehend, like, what the heck was going on here? I mean, I did everything right, I thought. I mean, I don't lie, I don't cheat. This is all stuff that was outside of my control. What the heck was going on? And I had to fully surrender. Fully and completely surrender. I came back, I was looking for a bankruptcy attorney, and then I get a letter from the White House. The White House, from the President of the United States. And for those of you who are listening to the audio, somebody's looking very puzzled right now.
Yes.
It's not me. I get a letter from the White House. So what happened is I was so desperate when I was going through all of this that I finally relented to my former mother-in-law, who was an absolute nag about this one thing. You got to write the President of the United States. Why are you bothering with anybody else? Why don't you go straight to the number one guy in the country? If anybody can help you, it's the President of the United States. Have you written your letter to the President of the United States yet? And at some point, this is so stupid and it's so ridiculous of an idea that I was like, I just can't have this conversation anymore. Fine, I'll write the damn letter, so at least I don't have to have this conversation anymore. I have a letter from the White House in my hand.
What did you write? What did you write?
I need help.
What's the gist? Like, you just write a letter to the president saying, "Hey, I need some help."
Yeah, I said, I need some help here. I mean, I've done everything right. September 11th wiped me out. I can't get back on my feet. I'm deep into debt. I don't know what to do. I have a great idea. I'm trying really hard. I'm an immigrant. I'm following the American dream. You say the backbone of the American economy is a small business. Prove it.
Was it Was it Bush or
George
Clinton?
W.
George
George W.
W.
Bush.
Yeah. Okay.
And this letter also went to the Small Business Administration, to the second in command. And that guy said, I got to speak to the nutcase that wrote a letter to the president instead of calling me. So I'm now having an appointment with the guy who, the second person in command for all of Los Angeles County Small Business Administration. I mean, we're talking, this is a huge district. And he says to me, I'll put in what you put in. So long story short, we finally getting to this. 3 months later, they found me a bank. And I got rid of all my debt in a 10-year fixed loan. I freed up my line of credit. 3 months later, I'm break even. 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my category. This is how close this was. And then a Bill Gates company comes and knocks on my door. Can you tell us how you did it? Like any decent woman, I said, you want it, you pay for it.
That's great.
And they said, how much do you want? I said, I would like to have a couple million. And then they said, fine.
I'll be darned. That's one of the best stories we've had on here. I have to tell you, who writes the President of the United States? And you know what's genius about it? Well, what's encouraging about it is that they actually read it and passed it on to the person that could help you. But that person that in L.A. that he passed it on to there was no way he wasn't going to do something when it gets passed down from the top.
When you get a letter from the White House, from the president, the office of the President of the United States, you will answer that letter for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be just really bad form if you didn't. But, the funny part is I could have called him directly, but I didn't. Because it never even occurred to me. And I think what I like about telling the story today is not, look at me how great I am, because the story isn't really that I'm all that great. The story is like I'm freaking desperate, trying everything under the sun to make things work. But to say that there's a couple of things in here that I think are important to point out. Number one is the surrender of the outcome, that you oftentimes find these quantum leaps or these breakthroughs, which I'm sure you see in your masterminds all the time, when there is a rock bottom point and a full surrender to it. Because this is the part where you then say, something else needs to take over. I have done everything. And this is the hardest part for us, because we're used to being in control all the time. Mm-hmm. And when I fully surrendered, that's when something came in, and it came in from an area that I would never have thought about. I mean, the President of the United States, come on, let's get serious. That's ridiculous. But it was something that I would have ignored for months, until it finally got to the point where I relented. So I think that as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we do need to get out of our own way of believing that what we believe in is actually the path to get us there. It is the outside influence. It is the unusual act, the crazy, ridiculous, stupid, idiotic action that you did out of pure desperation that sometimes gets you to a play that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
So I'm a big believer in the energy flow in the universe, and I don't believe in coincidences. And it's interesting you use the word surrender, because I just went through a leadership retreat of my own, not mine, but I went to another. And you've seen the fire walks before, and we did that. I don't know if you've ever seen the steel rods that you put up to your neck and you walk forward and bend that thing in half. I've did that. I've broken through the wood. But the most powerful one wasn't the fire walk for me. It wasn't the steel. It wasn't breaking through the wood. The most powerful exercise for me was they had 2 cinder blocks, and then they put the wood, the same wood, the type of wood that we were breaking through, and having to go full on to break through it. And what they wanted to do was to think about some of the limiting beliefs, or maybe it was something from your childhood or something like that, some type of trauma. And it was about surrendering and letting go. And there was an exercise where you're just dropping your arm, not trying, just literally letting go. And it was more of a mental exercise than anything. And I had to open up my eyes to see, did I get through that? And I did. Um, but as I stood back and then watched others, some people were able to do it, but you could tell the ones that were struggling, you could tell they were still trying to use the word control as well, still trying to control the drop of their arm, either making it go faster, or you could see them trying to act like they were letting go, but still kind of controlling it and making it go slower than it really would. And they wouldn't break through. And I just, it was an extremely, I agree with you said that. I love that you opened this show up with God and then surrendering. I think it is, we don't have a lot of people that have the courage to come in here and say that. And I'm a big believer in everything you just said, and I love it. Single mom, another thing. I have a lot of respect for that. I don't know how. I have to tell you, if I was a single dad, I would really struggle. I don't know, and it's from what I mean by a time management standpoint. I don't know how I would be able to focus on both and be successful at both. So I want to go into that for just a second. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a single parent? First generation immigrant as well. I mean, you got a lot of obstacles and big debt, trying to build a business, and you went into some of them, but get into like one or two of the biggest obstacles that you really faced. And then what did you do to overcome those?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is the stupid stuff people say to you. Um, as a woman who, is trying to do the impossible, and it feels like the impossible. I had no support network. My entire family's in Germany. My ex-husband is an alcoholic and a pathological liar. There was no support from his family. I mean, I kept in touch with, his nephews and nieces because I wanted my daughter to have cousins that she, then would be able to connect with. I think the challenges were just literally not ever having a minute where you can just be by yourself, or you can take a breath. You are always on. You can never really relax. You have to get very disciplined in the way you think about things. Money was a huge issue because because you need the time to make the business work, but you are the one who's picking up your child every day. So you have to leave at 4:45. There just isn't any other alternative. And then there is events on the weekends, and I was a producer. So my call times were sometimes at 4:00 in the morning, 5:00 in the morning, and I didn't come home until 8, 9:00 at night. And then I had to be up again at 4:00 in the morning. So in production season, sometimes got quite challenging on how do I do all of these things. The other piece about, and the stuff that people say to you is that there's still this notion that if a woman is not married, that she must have done something to make this man not want to be with her. And I mean, we see this right now. I mean, just turn on your television. It's everywhere. I mean, I can't believe we're having the same battle now that I had 30 years ago.
People don't change much. The human psychology doesn't if you go way back, right? A lot of the same sales techniques work today, the same ones we learned or people learned 100 years ago, and you can keep going backwards. Heck, you brought up God. You read the Bible. When I go through the whole Testament, I sit there and think, my God, how many mistakes are these people going to keep making? And then sure enough, we just keep making them today too. So it's the same stuff over and over.
I think this is the interesting part about this is that we have the data. We know that diversity works. We know that diversity is about diversity of thought. It's about, we know that we have confirmation bias. We know that we love our own stories. And if you don't want to be a leader, you continue to do that, because leadership is all about challenging this confirmation bias that you have. Leadership is about being conscious that I know I have this bias, and what do I do to not be in that bias? Because I already know what I know. I don't need other people to confirm what I know.
All right.
And so I think that there are these pieces where you sometimes go and you say, I can't believe you say stupid stuff like this, and they say it because they don't know better, or there is this underlying current, especially against women. And I used this to my advantage, if you so want to, because I figured if people constantly underestimate me, then they'll never see me coming.
Can I say
And
something real
yeah,
quick? When you were saying that, in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, she's got kind of a limiting belief there. But then you kept going, right? And then you're like, but I used it as an advantage. So you're sitting there saying, no. It could be a limiting belief, but I'm not letting it be a limiting belief. I'm gonna turn this around. I love that. Keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, and no, don't be sorry. I think it makes a better conversation if it's like we're actually having cigars and bourbon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the idea really is, and I think this is sort of the message that I want to share with your audience, is that people are what they are, and they're messy, and they think what they think. It's not our job to convince them, but it is your job to look at what you're dealing with and then say, do I accept this for myself or not? And I did not have a plan B, because if I would have had a plan B, then I didn't think that my plan A would work.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a very traumatic and abusive childhood, where my mother is the abuser. And if I would have failed, then she would have been right that I was no good, nobody would ever love me, and all the horrible things that I had to listen to when I grew up. So I had to really get very disciplined about what I allowed myself to enter my headspace, because I only had such limited amount that I could articulate, or I could associate for something. I could worry about money only twice a month when I had to pay bills, and then I had to shut it off.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit there and worry about money 30 days a month. It just couldn't. 2 days a month, that's all I did. And then I had to figure out, did another check come in that said, do you want another $10,000? Yes, bill paid, done. Right? That's how bad it was. And then eventually you get better at it, and you use it as a strategic tool, which is why I'm so big about strategy now, especially, when I work with women, where I say, you cannot change the common perception, but you certainly can change how you react to it. And you certainly can do certain things about being taken seriously, but in a way that you are not, the B word, or you're not being
You can
perceived.
say the bitch word on our
Okay,
show.
I can say the bitch word on the show. Good. All right.
Yeah.
I never know. So that was really, really super important for me to be playful, but to also be firm. And then there was this one moment where we were in Portugal, and we were at this conference, and my mentor, Jeff, he stands there, he crosses his arm, he leans back, he looks at me, and he says, Beate, I love it when you do the blonde thing. I said, and you're really good at it. He says, I just don't buy it for 1 second.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. There are a lot of successful men who at some point think, so I'll just throw this at you, that think, man, if I was a woman, this would be easier. And the only reason I say that is sometimes the grass is always greener on the other side. And everyone's got their own set of challenges, obstacles, barriers that they have to overcome. But the key is doing that. And you said something I want to touch on. You said, I had a plan A. I didn't have a plan B, because that just means I didn't have confidence or belief that my plan A was going to work. And what you're not saying at that, and so I agree with that. I believe in contingency plans, but that doesn't mean, well, if this doesn't work, then I'll do this. It means if my strategy or my action plan to accomplish plan A doesn't work, I might pivot a little bit here and make adjustments along the way, but plan A is still getting done. And in other words, does that make sense? Sometimes our product, the way we service a client, we go in and we develop a product, and 6 months later, we listen to feedback from clients and we're like, okay, they like it, but they really want it to do this, this, and this. And we pivot a little bit. That's not what you're talking about when you say plan B. You're saying, give up on this idea, go do something else. And I love only having plan A's. I agree 100% on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you say, I'm going to be a millionaire, and if that doesn't work, I work at Walmart.
Correct.
That does not compute for me. But what you said is actually very important, and I want to spend another minute on this. I believe in quarterly plans. A lot of times, my clients have a very hard time when you say 3-year plan, 5-year plans. I mean, anybody who has a 5-year plan, just forget it. Don't even, I mean, what's the freaking point? We are in, anybody who had a plan before AI came is done. With AI, your plan is going to change. Is it every 3 months now or every 6 months? Because you don't even know what all the things are that it can do. So I believe to say, okay, let's just focus on what are we trying to accomplish for the next year. And then let's break that down into quarterly goals or into quarterly pillars or quarterly actions. So if you have a lead generation problem, take the next 90 days to take care of your lead generation fix. Yep. And then if you have a problem with sales, then you focus the next 90 days on how to get better at sales. And then the next 90 days, you focus on servicing your clients better. And on the next 90 days, you do something else. That way, you never get into this like long-term overwhelm. You stay here right now, but you're absolutely correct. And when you have these smaller components, which you do need because you need to know if what you do actually works. And you need 90 days at minimum to see if something works because of algorithms and cadence and energy, if you so want to put enough out there so it can resonate and come back to you, then you have a shot at it.
Well, which the key word that you use several times is focus, right? How many times do business owners sit there and start all kinds of projects, not really prioritize any of them, and they're lucky if any of them get done because they're just there is no focus. They're all over the board. And then eventually we have teammates or employees that know they can weather the storm and just wait it out. They don't have to finish and get things done because we've conditioned them to know that we'll move on to the next idea in another month or two. So I like the fact, in fact, one of our leadership retreats, we did an entire thing on planning and prioritizing. So I think that's great. I want to go into, and I think it's very relevant now. There's some potential economic dangers, I guess we'll say, out there, right? I hate using that R word. I choose to never participate in a recession.
I bought a whole bunch of stock this morning after a big crash.
Yes. I choose to never participate in recessions. And so, but I want you to talk about, because you've mentioned before, and by the way, you have a book out, correct? What's the name of the book?
Yes. Happy Woman, Happy World, your foolproof fix on how to go from overwhelmed to
Correct.
Awesome.
And in that, you talk about leveraging hidden opportunities and things like that. And you also talk about it in challenging times. So it couldn't be more relevant than to talk about that right now. So
Truly.
How can entrepreneurs first identify what these hidden opportunities might be and then leverage them for their businesses?
Yeah, so the first thing I want everybody to do is go on a Sunday afternoon in the Apple Store. And no matter what you hear anywhere else, you walk in an Apple Store on a Sunday afternoon, you think they're giving everything away for free.
Yeah.
You can't even get an appointment. Yeah. So this is proof that when you have the right product and something that's desirable, the people will buy it, no matter what the economic conditions are. They'll do payment plans, they'll do trade-ins, they do all kinds of things, but they buy what they want. With that mindset, you look into how do they talk about what you have right now? Is the verbiage that you're using relevant to what they're doing right now? So I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you mean?
Yes. So in a time like now, there's a lot of people that have been laid off from corporate. which is bad for their self-esteem and their confidence. So when you go on LinkedIn, 2 out of 10 posts are, I finally followed my dream, listened to my inner voice, finally left my corporate job and put my shingle out.
Yeah.
Okay. So these people are now looking for people like us, in business consulting and coaching, on how to start a business or how to find shortcuts.
Yeah.
Somebody who is already a coach or consultant who now sees these corporate guys eroding their pool of clients because they can't sell to them anymore. Now they're competitors. Their language is, how do I find more clients? Or how do I preserve my fee? Because these other guys that left their corporate $250,000 job suddenly are happy that somebody gives them $50 for an hour of coaching,
Right.
which neither you or I would even touch, not even if it was, we just wouldn't.
Right.
And so now the $250 coach is worried that there's a guy or girl that has Apple, Microsoft, Oracle, Intel on their resume, now doing what they do with the credibility of these big companies for $50 an hour just so they can build up a clientele and get their feet wet. So they have a separate language. Then we have people that have figured it out and they want to grow their business, but are people really thinking about growing their business, or are they talking about recession proofing my business? So you want to really hear the language of what happens. Reddit is a great place to go look on what people are actually asking and what they're worried about, because you want to find out what the actual questions are people are asking, and ChatGPT is amazing for that. You just type in go and go in the forums and find me some questions that people are asking around starting a business. And then it'll give you a list of 50 things. So it's important that if you choose not to participate in a recession, which I love that you just said that, Scott, is to say, well, is how I present myself still relevant? So I have a brand called the Women's Code, and the Women's Code is my experience helping women in leadership. Now, before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of keynotes on equality, diversity. I had the numbers on why diversity of thought is important in companies. And then the pandemic came and nobody cared. Nobody cared. And then the backlash of the Me Too movement came, and then women like me were ostracized for cat ladies that haven't had, sex in 15 years.
It's so funny.
Probably no man would ever touch.
It's so funny you bring up the cat lady thing, only because I watch no news. So you mentioned something, you only want to put so much in your brain, right? So I really am conscious about not letting crap come in. I don't care what news channel. I don't watch any of them. And so even the ones I agree with politically, I don't even watch them because they all sensationalize, and it's all just, it's all designed to their own hidden agendas, and I just can't stand it. It upsets me, and so I think to myself, it's not going to change how I vote. So why am I just upset? So I limit it. However,
the cat lady.
Yes. So I'm on Twitter again. All right, only because for business reasons, and I'm getting sucked in because it's political season. And I'm seeing these cat lady things, and so that's why it made me laugh, because all of a sudden I'm seeing all these what used to be tweets about cat ladies, single women with cats or something, or I don't know what the heck it is. I don't even know what it is, but I just know people are getting upset by it, and so So when you said it, it made me chuckle, because I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, this is a thing.
You have absolutely no idea on how much of this is a thing. And then, once you get death threats, it gets a little bit dicey, so there was a moment where I had to step away from it because it got a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
But the point here really is that you have to adjust your language. So if this cat lady thing is a thing right now, which sadly it is, then you need to look at the language that you're using, and you need to make sure that there is no friction in the message and how you present it.
Like, let's take that to the extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
With what we were just saying, how would you do that?
Yeah. So what I did with the women's code, so I literally over the weekend removed sort of the last equity, diversity, inclusion pieces of the website and just took whatever 50 pages down to 10. And then I thought about what's a message that everybody can agree on. And I came up a couple months ago with a tagline called Lead, Don't Beg. And that is a message that has no friction because everybody can agree that we need to lead and not beg. Why ask for a seat at the table if you're already sitting at the table? Why, can I say success strategies for women? That's non-controversial, right? I can say shortcuts, helping women navigate the complexities of working mothers. Now I'm not in the cat lady era. Now I'm in the Ruth Bader Ginsburg wisdom of allow me to share with you on how I got here. And, since I am a grandparent and my daughter has a 1-year-old, I've been really playing with this concept of the badass grandma, which I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg had really down. This is a little bit talk like behind the scenes on branding. So if you don't want to be the cat lady and run around in white flowy or purple flowy dresses with long gray hair, which is a choice, and by all means, go and do that if that's yours. But I prefer the leather jacket and the jeans and the whatever cutout shirt. And, I prefer on the badass grandma side because I do think it's a much more relevant positioning and brand. And what we are seeing as a result of it, and we are now about, I want to say 60 days into our 90-day YouTube strategy, is that who is watching us on YouTube as a result of it are 92% men between 25 and 35.
Interesting, because it kind of accomplishes exactly what you were trying to overcome. I mean, that's beautiful.
Exactly. And that just shows you the power of when you get out of your own confirmation bias or your victim mode. I can't believe they're doing this to me.
Yeah.
I don't have cats. So I know I'm not a cat lady. It doesn't matter what you tell me.
I'm sorry.
I don't have. Yeah, it's like I don't know. Maybe you have cats. Maybe you're a cat man.
I don't. I'm a dog guy. I'm a dog guy.
That seems to be okay, though. That's dogs are okay. It's just the cats, the women with the cats, that seem to be the issue.
That's funny.
But make sure that how you say it doesn't mean that you need to change what you do. It just means that you need to tweak the approach so that it resonates with the current environment and it has as little friction as possible.
That was great. All right. So let's talk a little bit about strategic thinking. And I mean, that's an example right there of strategic thinking. But give us another example of how it plays a role in growing a business.
Yeah. So the other piece, and I'm going to give you another example. So I had I don't want to say spiritual awakening because that's not true, but I had a spiritual journey at the beginning of the year and I had my butt kicked like big time. And I came back and I had some very clear sort of messaging in my head where I got very clear that I needed to take what I believe in, energy, spirituality, God. I mean, and I'm not attached to religion or God as a word, so please replace this with a term that's more aligned with your own belief system. But if a tree, and we know the science on this, if the roots of a large oak tree move aside to make room for a seedling to grow, and that is, nature without known intelligence. But we know there's intelligence because otherwise it wouldn't happen. If a tree can do that, can you even imagine what would happen to us and how powerful we would be if we tied into this one source energy? And that message for me was so clear that I said, I don't even have a choice. I have to implement this in my work now because I do feel that there's an activation. It's almost like a counteraction to what I see the other guys, especially in the political arena, are doing. It's like, how can this be further removed from what I'm hearing? How is it possible that what they're talking about has literally nothing to do with any conversation I have on any given day? And I talk a lot like you.
Yeah.
But none of this stuff that they're talking about happens in my world anywhere. And I'm going like, so wait, so we have a parallel We have a parallel universe. So there, what it means to me is there's an activation of conscious leaders like you, like me, like many of the people that are in our circles and our network that you were talking about, that are really stepping up and embracing these messages and saying spirituality can be incorporated with strategy, because we know that the most successful people have spiritual practices that help them better at strategy. We know that meditation and a spiritual practice helps you clean your mind, makes you make better decisions. We know that when you are taking a step back and you're allowing actually the information to come in, the information that comes out, input and output, right? Garbage in, garbage out. If good stuff goes in, good stuff comes out. So we know all of this. And so I feel that from a strategic perspective, even something like this is a strategy that you can implement. And now I'm getting off my soapbox.
No, that's good. I normally don't take notes. I'm sitting here taking notes
I see. I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we record it, and I can transcribe it with AI. So I don't, and then I always ask myself, why do I take notes? But I feel like I remember things better when you bring up things. Like I did write down the Hear the Language and the Reddit. You can look at reviews and do that as well. I think that's another good source. But what are I love going to ChatGPT or some AI tool, and what are people asking about in blank, right? For me, it might be like, for me plus ultra, it might be in growing their business, right? Personal development, whatever it might be. I'm going to explore that as soon as we're done with the show, actually.
You'll be floored, and it'll tell you at Quora they're referring to it as this, and then ask for reference links, and then it'll give you the actual chat. Yeah. And then on Reddit, there's a string that talks about this, and then over here there's a feedback on an article somebody wrote on Medium or something like that. It's really fascinating. And then you have a point of reference, and you're not in your head, you're in theirs.
Yeah, I'm going to do that for all my businesses. This is great. And I feel like I'm not an expert on AI. I feel like I'm moderate. I feel like I'm better than, I don't know if I'm average. I'm at minimum average on AI stuff, because I do use it a lot. But I never thought to do that. I love it's genius. What's the fastest way to establish yourself as an expert or become a thought leader, establish authority within your industry?
I actually think right now it's podcasts.
Okay, not writing a book.
Books are passion projects, and books are great for you to flush out your idea. For anybody whose idea is not really clear, or where people have a puzzled a frown line after you just told them what you do, writing a book will really help you flush this out, especially if you have a good editor who tells you hit every cliche and it really sucks. That really will help you to flush things out. Yeah. But I think in order to reach audiences and to get your message out and test your message and to see if you're any good and believable, podcast is the fastest way to do it.
Nice. All right. So nichicizing.
One of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
Nichicizing.
What the heck do you mean by it? Let's start there.
Yeah. Oh, God. Have you ever noticed, and I bet this has happened to you many times, that the better you get over the years at what you do, the more things you can help your clients with? Is that a correct statement?
Good. I would agree with that. Yep.
Now, inevitably, you just paid $25,000. You go in the fancy mastermind of Mr. Internet Marketer X, and he crosses his arms, he puts his hand on his face like this, and he says, "But Scott, what's the one thing?" And then you say, "WTF, one thing? I just spent 30 years learning all of this, and you want me to do what? You want me to nichicize all of my knowledge? You want me to remove everything I know about business building, and you just want me to tell them on how to prioritize their agendas? That's it. You want me to take all my knowledge and just do this? That's preposterous. That's insulting.
Yeah.
That's nichicizing. That's what all the internet marketers do. And the reason they do that is because that's how they divided the top 10% of the entire self-development market. You get the speaking, you get the lead generation, you get the funnels, you get the online courses, you get the leads and conversions, you get the product launch, and they hand each over to the next guy. One, after they bought this, they need to buy this, they need to buy this,
Right.
they need to buy this. And then you have 10 things, you spend $250,000 and you still don't have a business. It is genius.
Yeah.
That's nichicizing. So that other people can make money off you. For everybody else, what we do is we need to figure out what the umbrella is that we can put over all of our knowledge. Growth architect. That's my umbrella. And under the growth architect, I offer a transformation journey that has 3 very distinct pieces. My brand specifically, so this is the nichicizing, the opposite of nichicizing, is to say, while everybody else is down in the single weeds, they'll never get to 30,000 feet. I, however, can go to 30,000 feet because I know how to architect growth. And from 30,000 feet, I can tell you exactly where on that transformation journey, the map of the United States or wherever in the world you are, your airports are that you want to land. There are many airports. You don't need to land at any of them. You may want to have just a couple of them. So the idea of the nichicizing is for your listener to really understand it's literally a tactic. It's a tactic for you to feel bad that you haven't figured out the one thing because you have many things, and then to relentlessly help you to figure out what that one thing is. But because you do so many things, you'll never really figure it out. I mean, it'll be like telling your partner, I'm the best kisser in the world, we'll only kiss. Well, that would be a really sucky relationship, wouldn't it? You want the hand holding, you want the conversation, you want the companionship, you want to do the outside activities. So how is nichicizing even a freaking concept in our world? It's only for the marketers. So you've fallen for it. So the trick really isn't how to counteract that, is to say, and you do this with the bourbon and cigars. So you have a more masculine, kind of relaxed wisdom. Let's sit back. Let's not freak out. Let's sit down. Let's sit in a nice chair. Let's talk about it. Let's do business old school with a handshake, being together one-on-one. There's a very, and we'll talk about whatever comes up. That's the umbrella. And whatever comes up, then we'll address, and then we'll go that direction.
Yeah.
But you don't say, you only come to me if you need to figure out how to prioritize your list. So does this make sense? Let me just put it right back to you. So does that make sense? Or do you have any follow-up questions on that? Because I think
it makes
I think it's a
great
powerful
sense.
concept. Yeah.
And I also think it's not just in what your offers are or what your expertise is in as well. It kind of goes into the industries you serve. Like when I first started Business Bourbon and Cigars, because of another business I'm involved in and own, it was assumed, and it started off with a heavy focus in the auto industry. Well, everyone in that room, with the exception of a few people, all agreed that most disruption comes from outside of an industry. So they wanted to invite other business owners and business leaders from different business verticals into the group, into the community, because we wanted that diversity in terms of insight and experiences and stuff like that, different sales models, different business models, different approaches to process and things like that. And because you're never going to find the groundbreaking I don't know, process or product or service or some type of breakthrough in your industry looking within it. It just doesn't happen. And usually what's common in one industry, right, can be breakthrough, groundbreaking in another. And so that's what we wanted to do and what we wanted to find. But, there are people that like staying in their bubble, but that's not me. It's so mine. It went from really an auto type of community to it's more leadership focused. And so is that what you're talking? I assume that's what you're talking about, because I was sitting there thinking, what we're talking about here, these challenges aren't restricted to auto.
No,
we all need better employees. We all need how to retain better. We need to onboard better. We need better client retention. We need to grow sales. What industry doesn't need all that?
Well, that's my point. And so that's what I'm saying is that in the definition of how you build your leadership or how you build your business, be very careful who you listen to. And anytime you're in this guru world where one person, and I'm looking at the Alex Hormozi's and the Gary V's of the world, that's what they do. Is they come up with the promise that if you only follow me, what I and I alone can teach you will solve all of your problems, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But because it sounds easy, then people are going to go for that. When I sign up for masterminds or conferences or go places, I'm not looking for the promise of, with this one thing, this is a domino I'm going to give to you where everything finally falls into place. But I look for, I'm going to give you the understanding on how this can help with what you already do. So that's our promise here, at the Growth Architect, because I cannot fight Alex Hormozi or Gary Vee or Brandon Burchard or whatever these guys are saying. I can only say that, but you still don't have a strategy. Just because you throw content out like a madman doesn't mean that that's a business. What is the business? That's what I help you with. I help you with figuring out where all the pieces you already bought fit in, and how do we build a business model that's focused on what you're really good at, that's tied into your purpose, because, we align spirituality with strategic success so that has longevity. And then we pull out the pieces that you need to actually make that thing work. And we keep it simple, because this overcomplicating these processes and systems, I get the more I do it, the more and more I throw out. Get rid of the pages you don't need. Don't repeat anything. Get rid of the systems you don't need. You don't need 3 of these. Just get rid of it. You only need 1 CRM. If you can't figure out the CRM because you need to have 3, then find the one that does all 3 and bite the bullet, switch it, and be done with it. Yeah. But we are so used to buying the one thing that we never go to 30,000 feet and say, what are we even building? And then we pull the pieces in. And I bet 80% of your work is that.
Simple gets done. I sit here and I listen to you, and a couple things strike me. I'm just sitting here thinking as I listen to you and watch you talk. And obviously resilience, which we mentioned right in the intro, to overcome what you had to overcome early, and just keep it, not give up, and just really have that drive to keep moving forward and get it done is awesome. So nothing I say after that, without that doesn't happen. Your success doesn't happen. Having said that, you've got great vision. And what I mean by, that's not the right word. You have a unique ability to identify situations quickly, right? And see things clearly. Whereas I think a lot of business owners, like if I was to go to a lot of business owners and ask them, what's your unique selling proposition? Most of them would give me some generic thing, fluff, that means absolutely nothing to their prospect or client. It's just generic stuff. It's common, right? Whereas I think you have the ability to look at it and basically say, this is what we're good at, and this is how it needs to be said. I think that's a talent. I don't think that's not easy.
That is my super skill. That is my absolute super skill, is that I can, I'm known to cut through the chase. And people always go like, how do you know that so quickly? I said, it's part intuition. It's part diving into it. It's part what I know. That is what I'm good at. If somebody's in a convoluted mess, by all means do call. I can help you to get to the chase of it pretty quickly.
Absolutely. All right. So we're heading into a potential R word recession. What should business owners do, especially the ones that had a good growth path going, right? They have and still continue to have good momentum. What do they got to do to avoid getting sucked into that trap and keep growing?
I think the most important thing for business owners right now is to just, as you said, stay away from what other people are saying. Remember that everything is regulated by AI algorithms. So if there's a certain threshold that's being hit, the machines do everything, has nothing to do with any particular person. So you got to practice a lot of clean thinking.
Take me through. Walk us through a client that comes to you. And the reason I'm asking this question, well, one, it's going to help you, but two, I want the business owners out there to understand the process on how they can get here. I come to you and I say, I need help. Walk me through something that you did or some type of strategy that you gave a business owner and it led to a lot of success.
Yes. So the point is that you really need to think about it's like when somebody is in this moment of where there is a lack of clarity, right? So let's not freak out. Let's just say things are changing. I don't know what to do. I'm getting confused because media is designed to keep you confused, so you keep reading excessively. So the first thing is you got to get into a place where you can think. You call somebody like me, you call somebody like you, and say, here is the issue. I have a process called an uncovery session. I've developed the 5-star success blueprint that goes through the 5 steps of business, which is the what is the idea, what is the offer, what are the systems, who is the team, and who are you as a leader. And literally, the whole system has 5 words. It couldn't be any simpler than that. And there's questions attached to each one of those that will help business owners to figure out where in this process can I figure out where I'm stuck. And then I say something really shocking. I say, where do you usually stop? What's the thing that you're always up against? How far do you go and then you fall off? That needs to be solved first. That's usually where you're stuck. So it takes me probably about 30 to 45 minutes. That's it. And then I know exactly where the business is. The vision is not big enough. The idea is not flushed out. The model, they don't have a business model. They're trying to do too many things. It's the wrong avatar. They're going after the wrong client. For somebody like me and probably somebody like you and many of us, we've done this so often, for us to see this is relatively easy. I use a lot of intuition to go into it. And then I say, okay, the solution to this is on the transformation journey under the growth architect. Here's what you have, here's where you want to go, and this is what you're missing. So it's so clear and concise for them to figure out where they are stuck or what needs to be done next. So if I say to somebody, you already built it, you don't need building, but your growing is not working. You think you're scaling, you forgot growth. We have to build, grow, scale. We can't scale unless we have done the other 2.
That's well said. I want to thank you. First off, for sharing an incredible journey, valuable insights. And once I said this at the beginning, I thought that what you led off with, I always ask, what's your journey? What's your experience? Tell us a little bit about you. And man, that was good. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we learned a lot about the importance, I think, of strategic thinking, identifying those hidden opportunities, building sustainable business models. For those of you looking to take your business to the next level, I want you to make sure you check out Beate's resources and take her quiz. She's got a quiz. If you go to whatsyourtalentworth.com, and then you can discover your true earning potential. So make sure you visit that. And we'll have this link in the show notes, by the way, so people will be able to access it easily there as well. So whatsyourtalentworth.com and take that quiz. Don't forget to subscribe to Me Plus Ultra at meplusultra.com. and also our YouTube channel, which is Me Plus Ultra Network. By subscribing, you'll be able to stay updated on all our latest content, including interviews with industry leaders, tips for business growth, and more. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. Make sure you rate and review. Share this episode with your network. Together, let's continue driving positive change and innovation in the world of business. Until next time, keep innovating and keep making a difference.